Welcome to the SPS Digital Learning Hour, brought to you by the Digital Learning Assessment Department. We're coming to you today from, my house. Instead of central office, we're bringing you the latest news in Springfield Public Schools in regards to technology, along with inspiring interviews from teachers who are using technology in the classroom. I'm your host, Mike Thomas, the Bearded Tech Ed guy. You can follow me out on all the social medias at Bearded Tech Ed. I'm excited to get back with you today. It's been a few weeks, and it's probably going to be a few weeks more because, as you know, with COVID-19 here, it's not the easiest thing to do is getting interviews with teachers who are in their schools doing amazing things, because their schools are not open. With that in mind, I'm not sure next when we will record. I've got this one last interview that I'll share with you today. But first, some updates. School is out, food is available still. There are a number of sites across the city where it's grab-and-go lunch meals. You can pick them up between 11 a.m. and 1 p.m. Any person 18 or under is eligible for these meals. No ID is needed. It doesn't even need to be your school. So you can find these meals over at Bowles, Chestnut Middle, Commerce, Dorman, Glickman, Indian Orchard, Kensington, Liberty, Lincoln, Rebecca Johnson, South End, Talmadge, Warner, and Washington. One of the things that they are doing is on Friday, so that would be when I'm recording this on 3/19, so on 3/20, if you show up with a grocery bag of your own, a reusable grocery bag, you will get food for the weekend. That's one of the things that they are doing is spreading food out over the weekend, giving you guys and parents food that you need to kind of help with your children. Another update for Springfield parents, teachers, students, there is a place on the SPS website, Learning from Home Resources. On here you can find ideas and things that you can do over this time while you are at home, and it covers everything: reading, writing, math, creating, health, phys ed, art, and all grade levels. There is tons of resources here, so I highly encourage you to check them out. Coming up next is our interview of the week. For this week's interview of the week, I met with Kaitlin Neilsen of Friedman Elementary School. She's a first grade teacher doing some awesome things in the classroom, so take a listen.
Kaitlin Neilsen at Friedman Elementary. I've been teaching first grade here. This is my 8th year, so the start of my 8th year. Yeah.
Start of your 8th year.
Yeah, midway through.
Did you teach anywhere else before here, or so you were fresh out of college?
Yep.
Fresh into teaching 8 years ago, similarly to when I started in the district, actually. So what were some of the first things that you remember doing in the classroom in regards to using technology?
When I first started, I didn't use technology. I know they had like the Lead 21 cards at that time where they could, there was something they could do on we had the desktop computer, so like 6 of them in the room, and they knew that they had the cards, but I didn't know anything. Like I didn't know how they logged in, I didn't know any of it, because I actually was in a different classroom at the beginning of the year with another teacher, and then a teacher went on maternity leave, and that's how I took over first grade and stayed since then. So I came into a classroom that had a bunch of different subs every day and was just thrown into the mix.
Yeah, anytime when you're thrown into where it starts out with a bunch of different subs, it can be very difficult.
Yeah.
In thinking about those early years of teaching and stuff that you know now, what are some things that could have helped you then?
A lot. I wasn't really introduced into how the teachers plan for each unit or each week, where to get the materials from, the resources. I didn't know anything about the computers. Did I forget what the question was?
What could have helped you?
Just, I guess, Yeah, maybe be given like a UPG with what I needed to, teach for the rest of the month at the very least.
I remember when I first started teaching, I was teaching math and social studies, and I was teaching 5th grade, and I didn't really know the math curriculum because I came from teaching English at a different school in a different district, but I did know my social studies standards. And so I'm like, had nothing handed to me similarly to you, and I was like, oh, okay, I'm teaching social studies, and let me go look at the standards and then find content for the standards. And I didn't know until a couple of years in that there was an actual UPG for social studies. And so that definitely, I feel you there. That it would have been very helpful to have it.
I think from going to school, I only knew the standards, and what I was given, but I didn't know how to access what was in Springfield and all the resources.
Yeah, it definitely would have been helpful in the first year, especially to have.
Or even where the manuals were, at least if I wanted to use Lead 20, I didn't know where anything was.
So in thinking about using technology now, what are some things that you are doing in the classroom?
We use OneNote a lot in the classroom. It's gives the kids a lot of structure and what to do and what to expect for, especially in the afternoon for math for their centers. I'm able to give them differentiated materials from the program through OneNote, and it's just a lot quicker for me instead of having to make copies. Even if it's, things in their workbook too, I give them to-do lists, and they know where to check, so they know what they need to do and how to stay focused and on task. In the morning, they use it for their Word Work Center. They use the hands-on materials, but they will record with their handwriting in the OneNote, and they also use the immersive reader a lot too. So
yeah, that immersive reader is awesome. So you were mentioning that they were recording their handwriting, and 1st grade handwriting is very important because that's kind of when they learn how to do it.
Yeah,
a lot. How do you do that with OneNote and the computer?
So I got styluses for my kids on Amazon, just because I do think it's important with the handwriting for them to be holding, something as if it was a pencil when they do it that way. But there's a lot of studies too to have things vertical, when they're writing, and it helps kids with their OT. So they'll flip it over, since the computer's going to the tablet mode. So then the screen's right in front of them and to help them write on it. But they'll record their sight words. They'll write sentences. They'll draw and write. They do a lot of different things in there.
So those styluses were really worth getting.
In the engagement, drawing in bright colors, erasing, papers not ripping, erasing and it not being messy. Oh, they love it. So.
That's awesome. I know OneNote has a lot of great tools, and I know they just recently announced one of the things that has been on everybody's wish list for OneNote, which is the ability to, if you hand out assignments or you hand out a page, that you can actually do a mass deletion of it now.
Oh,
so
that's good to know.
I am mentioning that to you because they announced it in the last couple of days.
Yeah.
So even in the earlier part of this podcast, I'm going to actually go through some of the updates that Microsoft made.
Yeah.
And that's
real good to know.
I think it was hard for them to figure out how to, because it's easy to hand stuff out, but harder to take it back.
Yeah.
So and it was the most requested thing on their user voice, and they were finally able to get the coding right so that it does it. So you'll have to try that out soon.
I will. It's my kids because you know how there's the OneNote 2016 that's on, but they know how to get the new OneNote app, and they download it if it goes away. But what was I going to say with that? For a while, I couldn't send things by groups. So in the OneNote 2016, you could differentiate and put your groups for your kids so that you could, send them things you want them to work on. And the new one didn't have that for the longest time. Last year was a little bit of a pain, and my kids loved it, and I had to, take my time. But this year now they have that in there, and I set it up so my kids are in their different reading groups or in math groups, and it's a lot easier to send them the materials.
Definitely. So again, as we're talking about OneNote here, how do you feel like that has helped you as a teacher be a teacher? I mean, it's one thing to be able to differentiate and hand, because like we could all go to the copier and I could print off 5 of these, 5 of these, and 5 of these, and pass them out. Like, how do you feel it's helped you become a better teacher?
I think that it just makes the structure and the routine with the kids easier. They like to know what's going to be, like, what to expect for the day, and you know, they're able to get, a lot of the kids are able to get settled and know what to do. They're much more independent. So when I take small groups, they're more focused and on task, and I don't know, I feel like it's created more, like, they're more independent with doing their work, which is hard a lot when you have 25 students and they're all 6 and 7.
Yeah, I was going to say, getting first graders to be independent's got to be something, because I know how much struggle I had at times getting 5th graders to be independent. So getting them and having them learn that earlier is probably much more beneficial to them and creating more of a 21st century learner. Another thing, as a teacher, I used to have to bring home a lot of work with me. Is this also like another benefit?
Definitely. It's really like helpful to see, because I'll put their exit tickets, like the closing tickets in the math, in their OneNote, and they do it. So I'm able to go home on my phone if my son has a soccer game, you know, or practice or whatever. Like, I can quickly check and see who got it for the day's lesson and who needs a little bit more reteaching the next day. So it's really a quick and easy way to see, you know, who's getting the lesson and who needs some more.
Yeah, and also not having paper everywhere.
And I can become very unorganized with a lot of paper. And with the new programs, there's a lot of it. So it's been nice to, you know, kind of have less of that.
Yeah. So one of the big things in Springfield this year for first grade is a lot of new curriculum. In prior years, first grade and all the other grades had adopted being a writer. This year, the math program changed, the reading program changed. How, or maybe you haven't checked it out yet, because I know for me, whenever I learn new curriculum, I really spend the time to like actually learn it instead of look at the page, have it in my hand and try to teach it at the same time. Yes. Because I don't feel like I would be prepared enough to answer any questions that they have if those questions are not on the script. And a lot of times, and I remember this with Envisions, the questions that students had weren't the questions that the book prepares you to answer. So for you, what kind of tools have you had to use to help you better understand the new curriculum?
Well, with the reading program, there's a lot of different manuals. So I like to go online and just, you know, digitally access the manuals. And when I'm planning with my with the other first grade teacher, she plans writing and I plan reading. So there's a lot of different documents and assessments that go with it that you have to either print off, or like I'll put the links in OneNote for her and she'll do the same. So it's easier for us to share the materials that we need for the week to assess the kids. I know that I read the manual because I was trying to understand the small group reading, especially because it's totally different than teaching guided reading groups. So my way of teaching reading to the little ones has changed. So I did dive in and read about the program and why they teach, like why it is the way it is and what the expectation is in each of their reading groups and where they should be, because I felt a little frazzled. I don't know. I mean, I think I plan like most teachers where I just get my sticky notes out and put them in my books beforehand and make sure that, because I don't like to stare at a book either. Otherwise, you know.
Absolutely. When it comes to the new programs, are there any online aspects or digital aspects for the students, in particular with the math?
Yeah, I mean, the math has a lot of the iReady lessons that you can assign to the students that go along with the lessons that you're teaching. So you can go in there and find lessons and videos, like interactive tutorials and everything for the kids that align with what you're teaching in the whole group lessons, so that they have extra practice or like the prerequisites that they need to be more successful.
Nice.
And then they have the quizzes online too that they take.
Awesome. you teach reading, writing, math. I'm going to guess you have social studies and science. Do you use anything for social studies and science at all? Or
I mean, the science program has, the videos and things online that you accessing the digital textbook is kind of tricky for the little ones, but I pull it up and we'll watch like the videos and the different things, and I'll walk through it on my smartboard with the kids with their science books.
I know that in the district there's always new initiatives and all sorts of different things going on with trying to help teachers and bringing curriculum and content and all that together. I see on your laptop that you have Makey, CS for All, Microbit. So I'm guessing you're in the CS for All project?
Yes, I am.
So how was that for you initially joining? Because I know for some people it was very, I don't want to say scary, but I'm pretty sure scary is the word that most of them would describe in thinking about computer science and integrating it into. So how has that process been for you? It's
been hard. It's exciting in the same way because the kids are very engaged and motivated when we do teach the lessons. But with the new programs especially, and trying to understand what I'm teaching and really, be ready for the lessons that I have to teach, and then trying to find a way to integrate the CS more so has been really hard. We did try to, the first 2 quarters, we were incorporating it during like reading centers and during writing time.
So I remember because I took part in CS, at least the initial preparing people, because our department wanted somebody to be also going through the same thing the teachers had. And I remember I don't know if they did it this year as opposed to what we did last year, but there was this whole course that we took where we had to use a lot of the tools like the hummingbirds and the Makeys and all of that. Have you had a chance to play with any of those, like the microbits or any of that?
We had like a 2-day PD in the summer before the school year. I think it was 2 days. And so we did get to walk around and kind of see the different resources available. But actually using them, I mean, I did use some of the Makey, and that was about it. And it was just it was kind of like we went around and got to play with some of the things the teachers created from the year before and see how to use them within reading and writing and math.
Makeys, I know for me, when I was learning how to use a lot of these tools, were the ones that, as a teacher, from the teacher perspective, it made me a little nervous. 'Cause it's like, oh, you want me to bring Play-Doh into my classroom? Yes. This sounds like a fantastic idea. But I know that a lot of students, when they get the opportunity to use it, they are very excited about it. So.
Yeah, so we got to try out the ones that were already made, but we never actually got to dive into how to. So that also kind of stops you as a teacher. If you don't get the time to really have hands-on and experiment, then you're not ready to take it into your classroom.
Right. So in thinking about that, and then thinking about what we talked about with your integration of OneNote, did you have a chance to use OneNote before you brought it into your classroom?
Yeah,
or was it kind of one of those...
I played around a lot at home, and then I kind of would pull a few students. It was like a couple of years where I would try it out, and because I just wanted to see how it worked with the students too. But yeah, I played around with it a lot at home first.
And so hopefully as you get to know the new curriculum better, that you'll be able to actually start pulling some of these in.
There was a couple extended day PDs where someone, might have been you, who came in. And then there's Microsoft has a lot of, the educational resources for teachers where you can take a course almost and you answer questions and you're learning about how to use it. So.
Yes, the education.microsoft.com is fantastic. And yes, I was the person who came and did those trainings, was it 2 years ago now?
Yes.
Because I remember I came the day before and I had to update 5 or 6 people's laptops so that we could do it. So I don't want to take up too much more of your time. It is after school, and like you, we both have children at home that we want to get home and see. I haven't been around kids all day, but you have. So I'm sure you want to see your kids instead.
Yes.
So my final question, every year, new hires into the district, whether they've just fresh out of Westfield State or UMass or have been teaching for 20 years, they all have to go through this program where it introduces them to Springfield. During that time, they get a lot of advice offered to them. And a lot of that advice, it doesn't necessarily come from classroom teachers. As a classroom teacher, what advice would you give them?
As a new teacher, I do think, as like myself, you have so much. Like, I feel like there's so much information, there's so much you have to do, and it's a lot, planning and getting organized and figuring it all out. And I think that just not to be nervous to ask your coworkers for help and to ask questions, and it's okay to not know, and to go to others for that feedback and that help, because otherwise you won't learn anything new and you won't, have all the resources and materials that you need.
Yeah, asking for help is very important.
Yeah, and I think just trying things too, because with the computers, I think with the little ones especially, it can be a little headache, especially the first time you try with them. But they really want to learn, and they love the computers too. So I think it's a good, to keep them engaged and motivated, even when they're all running up to you, to not just be like, oh, I can't do this anymore, but to keep trying, even if it's a little bit at a time.
Awesome. Well, thank you for the time here this afternoon, and have a great rest of your day and rest of the school year. And I'm sure I'll see you again.
Yes. Thank you.
I hope you guys were inspired by all the great things that are happening in first grade. First graders using OneNote. How awesome is that? It's a great way to teach them independence and being able to be accountable for the work that they're doing in the classroom. Super awesome. Thank you, Kaitlin, for allowing me to spend some time with you. As I wrap up this week, I just want you to know that here in Springfield, we are doing everything we can to help parents and teachers alike. There are lots of great resources out there. If you continue to go to springfieldpublicschools.com, you will learn more all about them. As for the blog and the podcast, it's kind of one of those things where, because of all the other things going on, it's kind of a little on the back burner. So we will update you when we have updates, and we will make new posts when we have new posts. I'm super bummed about the book study. I think it's going to be awesome, but right now there are more pressing needs that we need to be able to focus on, and that includes delivering online teaching content. So with that in mind, I'm Mike Thomas, the Bearded Tech Ed Guy, and this is the SBS Digital Learning Hour. See you soon.